I'd like to welcome you to College Conversations with STEM Colleges on behalf of SAGE Scholars and our founder, Dr. James Johnston. My name is Jenny Johnson, and I am the Consulting Director of School Counseling and Student Engagement for SAGE. This program is brought to you by Ready Set College, a product of SAGE Scholars. Ready Set College is a college search engine matching careers, including assessments, and majors to appropriate colleges. It is also dedicated to providing information on college funding and has a library of useful articles and takeaways. This presentation, as well as other ones that we have done, will be found in our library, and we will also be sending them to you next week. Today's presenters represent premier STEM colleges that are members of the SAGE Scholars Consortium of Colleges. They are Marian Nicoletti from RIT, Patrick Dean from WPI, and Carrie LeBar from Clarkson. Before we start, I have a little housekeeping to go over. All participants will remain on mute during the presentation. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat box. There will be time for Q&A at the end of the presentations. This program is being recorded and will be sent to you afterwards. This is the first of several Third Thursday College Conversations. The colleges that will be presenting in the following months are art colleges in February, colleges that support students with learning differences in March, and then a liberal arts college presentation in April. If there's any presentation that you would like seen in the future, please feel free to put that in the chat box, and we will definitely take that under consideration. I would now like to turn the program over to our presenters. Marian, it's all yours.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm very excited to be sharing some time with you and my two colleagues, both Patrick and Carrie. While I've never formally met them, this is one of the wonderful things that have come out of the pandemic is getting to do some of these things, not only live, but perhaps meeting and connecting with people in your profession that you may not have had a chance to do. So what I'd like to do is, on behalf of the three of our colleges, is talk a little bit about STEM and what is STEM and why is the skill sets and a career in STEM so important for those who have interest in this area. So we're going to talk a little bit about the high school preparation, the earning power behind having a career in STEM, the skills that go along with that, and then along with some program portfolio options at each of our universities. And then of course, we will open up to Q&A at the end of the webinar. So it is super important. And we're seeing this not only because STEM is this great little acronym, some have STEAM with other programs in there, but just so you know, STEM also includes computing. So while it's science, technology, engineering, math, the computing program is definitely part of that. So those of you interested in software, computer engineering, computer science, and all of the other areas within the computing field is also included in this acronym. As we look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and what they project over the next 10 years, we are definitely seeing that these STEM positions and occupations are going to continue to grow minimally at 10%. And then the earning power, and why it's important is you as high school students are looking at the potential to have a program and a degree that's going to help sustain you financially. The earning power is a big part of that. And so we already know that the average educated STEM worker earns around $66,000 per year, which is about $14,000 more, 26% less than a non-STEM worker. And so these are important things as you are making decisions about how you want your life to look and what the earning power of that degree may offer opportunities. Money's not everything. We know that, but what's important is that you as an individual find a connection between something that you enjoy and finding that place as far as having a fulfilling job, something that brings you joy, and of course, making a difference. STEM professionals are people who typically want to make a difference and help shape the future. So we're going to talk a little bit about the skill sets, but it's about being a collaborative problem solver and someone who's using innovation and making sustainable decisions. And so we'll talk about that. And then we talk a little bit about health, happiness, safety. These are all other reasons why people are choosing a STEM career. High school preparation is something that I am sure Patrick and Carrie, I know I do, we get questions about this all the time. School counselors are constantly being riddled with these questions. And we get students who come into our doors or through email asking us questions as far as how many years of this should I have? How many years of that should I have? And the reality of it is, if you are interested in seeking out a career and looking for a university to begin your studies, we are specifically looking for students who are well-rounded. So you have to be able to write. So English is important, but specific is also your science and math experiences in high school. And so these kinds of courses, chemistry and physics, are super important, specifically if you're looking to become an engineer, as you're looking to go into something more specific in computing. At RIT, chemistry and physics are required for getting into any of our engineering and then also our computing program. If you're a student who's seeking more of a degree program, say in the health sciences, you should definitely take chemistry, but courses in biology are super important if you're able to do that. Math, 4 years is an expectation for many programs across the board. And then electives that match your interest. There's Project Lead the Way for engineering students. There are advanced placement courses in computer science and courses in different kinds of computer languages. Again, depending on what you may want to take. These are all super important and ways that you can become more involved in that. Anatomy and physiology for those of you interested in medical careers or something in perhaps a biomedical area of study. And then of course, humanities. And we're going to talk a little bit about why humanities are so important. But rigor of coursework is something that we look at when we are making individual admissions decisions on students. So I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on this. You can read this on your own, but there is a paper out there called STEM 2.0. It's done by a group of individuals that represent higher education. It represents government and the industry sector. They've come together and they have developed this paper called STEM Connector. What they have done is they've basically said that in order for individuals to be able to provide the necessary skills to enter the workforce, they really need to have the following skills. And so what they've done is they've broken it down into 4 different areas: employability skills, innovation excellence, digital fluency, and hard skills. Well, that's a lot to be able to understand what that is. But these are the main sectors that they talk about. That when you're looking for a university and when you're looking for a career in STEM, it's really a lot about a skill set, not just for today, but for the future. So what will that skill that you're learning about right now, how long will that stay with you? And will you be able to adapt to what's happening out in industry, in education, in the health fields for a long period of time? It also talks about you don't need to be an expert in many areas, but you have to have a basic understanding so that you understand how to interact with technology. And last but not least, being able to think critically, be agile, be able to understand the different areas surrounding your specific major, because this is going to make you much more agile in the field. you're going to have competencies around your specific program, and you're going to be able to outlast what's happening right now in industry and be able to have those skill sets last you for a while. So what does that look like? So these are the 4 capability platforms that the STEM Connector folks reach out. So we all know people who are super smart. But if they're not able to explain a complex idea so that others around them on their team can understand what that means, that makes it really difficult for that individual to be successful. So you could be a super, amazing code girl or code guy, but if you can't explain what your ideas are, or sell an idea or an item, or convince people on your project team or a project manager, you're going to struggle. So presenting, selling ideas, functioning in teams, those are all super important things. Innovation excellence. We talk about making a lasting contribution. So STEM connectors and all these professionals have talked about, it's not just about inventing the next greatest thing, it's also being able to be an innovator. So this is what industry is telling us they want. Digital fluency is so important. And I've learned this, and I'm sure both Carrie and Patrick learned this. We are continually evolving. I've been in admissions now for 35 years. We didn't have data analytics years ago. We didn't have pivot tables, but I need to dig really deep down into the data, and I need to be able to model data. So having computer competencies are really important, but being able to do a deep dive into data and be able to analyze the information that's in front of you is super important. And then the hard skills, whether you are a computer engineer, whether you're a mathematician, whether you are somebody that's in biomedical engineering, regardless, you've got to be able to not only have the specific discipline skills, but you have to be able to shift depending on where the workforce demand goes. So we at RIT, and I'm just going to spend a couple minutes on that, complement not those skills that you'll be learning in the classroom. We also make sure that our students participate in cooperative education. And so all of our students are required in our STEM disciplines to do cooperative education. Look at it kind of like a paid work internship. They will do it at several different companies. Typically, students are doing 2 to 4 co-ops, depending on their program, and they don't pay tuition when they do this. Instead, they are getting paid by the companies that they're working for. And there's more information on our website if you want more of that. But the important thing is that students are able to get that experience, take those skills they're learning in the classroom, and start test driving those in industry working for these companies before they graduate. Here's an example of how they do that. If you're an engineering student, you can see that. I put business example because we have business students who are also in management information sciences. So they are our tech people in the business industry. And you can see kind of how that works for their degree. The nice thing is there's a definite correlation with our job placement. We're about 94% within 6 months of graduation. 60% of our students are getting job offers from one of the companies that they've worked in. So that really helps out. And last but not least, this is a listing of all of our STEM degree programs at RIT. Now we have a very large College of Art and Design. We've got programs in liberal arts, in business, but this will give you the STEM degrees within our academic portfolio. Don't expect you to memorize these or look at all these, but know that if you go to our website and if you go in the search engine and type in STEM degrees, you'll come to a website that lists all these programs. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Carrie. Good morning, Carrie. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And thank you for taking the charge at the intro there. That was wonderful info.
Absolutely, happy to do it.
Oh, thank you. So here at Clarkson, we do something very similar to what RIT does because we are also a STEM university, cooperative education, or an internship, some sort of professional experience is mandatory for our students as well, or else we actually don't let them graduate because we know it is that valuable for our students. They also, again, they're not paying tuition while they're on internship or they're on co-op because they're actually not getting college credits. What they're getting is just simply resume building. They are making themselves more valuable, which is way more important than college credit when they're out there in the co-op and internship programs. Students can do more than one. They're more than welcome to. And I'll be honest, Clarkson students tend to be overachievers and they will always do more than one. You can almost guarantee it. They'll do internships during the summer. The co-op, very similar to RIT, it does take place during the semester. So they are missing a little bit of time that they can make up later. Clarkson, where we are located, is up here just north of the Adirondack Park in New York State. So you may be asking, well, where do these STEM students, where do they go and where do they do co-ops and internships? I'm guessing it's not up in Potsdam, New York. You are correct. It is not up here in Potsdam, New York. They are all over the country. It's not necessarily a New York-based co-op or internship program. They can go wherever they would like. So for example, I'll use a big name, Lockheed Martin. They're all over the place. Literally, they are across the country. So some of my students who have gone on and done co-ops and internships with Lockheed have been, some of them are here in New York. They're right in the Syracuse area. Some of them are out west and they're out in Denver. So it really just depends where the student would like to go. Marion, could you click me a slide? So similar to RIT, here's Clarkson's STEM programs. A couple surprises I put on this list for you. You can see there's some business majors on there because here at Clarkson, all of our business majors do have a tech component. So all of our business majors must take some form of computer science course, and they are learning a bit of coding and programming at the same time. Why? Because going back and relating to what Marion said earlier, this is something that industry has told us this isn't just for the engineers. This isn't just for the science students. Your business majors need to be able to do IT because if something shuts down, if spreadsheets aren't working, if all of a sudden the system crashes, how are they going to react to that? Because as we've learned, as we've all gone virtual, mistakes happen and that's okay. And that's why we've built that into our business program to make sure our students feel comfortable and know what they're doing. Digital arts and sciences, that's a very, very popular one right now. It is a combo of the art side, but also computer science. So it is a double major with us. You can see I did put a little symbol there next to engineering because I'll have a separate slide for that with all of our engineering majors listed because we do have quite a few there. We do have the health sciences that Marion was talking about earlier. We have occupational therapy, physical therapy, and physician assistant sciences on our program. Now, all of those are an undergrad 4-year, and we have the graduate programs on campus. So for those students, high school level wise, bio, and more bio is very important. Chemistry is another one. Having at least pre-calculus. If they can take higher than pre-calculus, that's even better. But making sure at least pre-calculus as their math level would be awesome. If they have a chance to take anatomy and physiology, great. I understand a lot of high schools may not have that offering. That's okay. But if you're able to somehow take it maybe through a local community college and transfer it to Clarkson, that would be great just to make sure that, yes, this is definitely a program you want to be able to get into. Political science, that one might surprise some people too. Well, it is a science, so it definitely falls within STEM, and it is very math-based with political science. Yes, a lot of it is humanities. Yes, a lot of it is social sciences, but there is a ton of applied mathematics and statistics involved with political science. So I did pop that on there for the STEM program. Another big one, psychology, and then social documentation, which is students who are technically in the history program, but they're using a lot of that digital art and science background to capture history as it's happening. So a lot of tech component there as well. Click a slide for me, please. Thank you. So there's that engineering slide I was talking about. Aerospace, we did switch the name from aeronautical to aerospace. This is a heads up. I promise it's pretty much the same program, just a couple additional design courses we offer now. chemical engineering, good old civil engineering, computer engineering, electrical, environmental, mechanical, and software engineering. And we have right now over 30 different minors within engineering that are even more engineering. And we also have a ton of concentrations as well. One of the biggest ones right now is biomedical. Another huge one, sustainable systems. We also have sustainable systems for developing nations. So if students are looking at crossing maybe mechanical with environmental, that is a really, really great way to be able to get those two together. Those students typically participate in what we call engineering without borders, and they do travel to developing nations, bringing engineering plans. A lot of times it's civil and environmental engineers, but anyone is definitely welcome to go. Could I grab a slide? Thank you. And last but not least, just because you saw my title, I am the Director of Admissions for this early college program, so I thought I'd do my plug. Here at Clarkson, we have something called the Clarkson School, where it's an early college program for students who are maybe they're ready to start STEM right now. They are ready to be on a college campus. They are ready to go. They start here in a way a year early. It replaces their senior year of high school. Clarkson School students are enrolling in the same exact classes as Clarkson University students. There are no different levels. There is absolutely no difference whatsoever when it comes to the course material here for our students. They also receive merit-based scholarships from Clarkson, the same as our traditional incoming first-year student would. They also have eligibility to get need-based financial aid as well, so they'll fill out the FAFSA. Little bit different because these students are typically a little bit younger. They average 16, 17 years old instead of 18, 19 years old as a traditional first year. They do have their own resident hall here on campus. They're all housed together. They actually get better housing than the first year students. We don't let the first year students know that. They have a counselor here on staff for them. They have their own house advisors, and their head of school is here in the same exact resident hall that they have. So there's a lot more support for these students because they are a little bit younger. I mean, it's a good way to have them ease into the transition of them becoming a sophomore on campus. They can participate in all of the over 200 clubs that we have here on campus. They can participate in all of our Division III sports, which is 20 different sports teams that we have. The only thing they can't do is participate in Division I hockey, and that's an NCAA regulation, not a Clarkson regulation. When they start at the Clarkson School, our slogan is you start here, you go anywhere. Why? Because there are a lot of students that use the Clarkson School year to kind of boost their college applications to be able to maybe get into one of the Ivy universities, or maybe to get into one of kind of the Big Tens, and they feel maybe their high school can't give them the courses they need to be able to get that application where they want. They can use the Clarkson School for that boost. And that's where that counselor comes in handy to be able to help them apply to other universities. They're also automatically admitted to Clarkson overall. So as soon as you're done the Clarkson school year, you roll right into sophomore year with everyone else. And your financial aid, anything you get through the Clarkson school year, rolls right with you as well to sophomore year. So you have nothing to worry about there. So if anyone has any questions about this early college program we have, please feel free to email me and let me know any questions, or you have students who are interested.
All right, awesome. So my name is Patrick Dean, and I'm one of the assistant directors here at WPI. Thank you all so much for taking time today to join us. And I want to thank my two colleagues too for doing an amazing job setting everything up for this today. Here at WPI, we do stuff a little bit differently. And I'm going to start off by highlighting all of our majors right over here that really focus in STEM. Notably about us, we have over 14 different types of engineering that students can get hands-on experience with. The ones that are in, the ones with an asterisk and also italicized, those are ones that can be only taken as minors for our students. And then right over here is where we have all of our sciences too. Very much like what we see at Clarkson, we do have different programs such as management information systems, mathematical sciences, even going into data sciences here thrown into our STEM majors too, because that's what businesses are looking for nowadays. Individuals who know how to work and operate in a technical plane and work with materials such as this is what's very, very important for students. One thing that we get a lot of nowadays too is students asking about psychology and also pairing up with nanosciences too. One of the heads of our departments is actually a fallen nanoscientist. So we have a lot of students who take this path to go on to advanced degrees in nanoscience as well. And one thing that really sticks out about us too is we have actually graduate and advanced degrees in such majors such as fire protection engineering, which many of our mechanical engineers go into. So there are a lot of paths that you can take at WPI to go through different majors. And all of these are very interchangeable with each other, and you can add them onto each other as well as all part of our WPI plan, which I'll be going into as we hop over to the next slide. Because like I said, we do stuff a little differently at WPI. So we can go over to the next slide. Awesome. So the way that we do stuff at WPI is we don't have terms, we have terms instead of semesters. So we have A, B, C, and D. So during that time, instead of taking 5 or 6 classes during a normal semester, you're only taking 3 classes at a time during a 7-week time. Because we want our students to really focus on those classes during that 7-week time, and only focus on those 3 classes to do a nice deep dive and go hands-on in those courses. And because of that, we actually have our students taking more classes than they actually need to graduate, with an additional, I believe, 4 courses once they leave. So it's very easy for students to tack on a double major, add a minor, or start going for an accelerated master's program too through that WPI plan. We also have our optional e-term in the summer, which can help set students up for that too. We have a non-punitive grading policy here. So we really focus on our students getting that hands-on experience and really going hands-on in their majors and focusing on making products and applying their knowledge instead of just working for their grade. So we have an A, B, and C. Anything lower than that's an NR or no record, so it doesn't show up on your transcript. Now you can't NR your way through WPI and just no record every single one of your class. You do have to pass your classes to graduate here, but you can never get a failing grade technically. And like I said, with that flexible curriculum, we advise you decide. So it's totally up to you what classes you want to take. If you want to come in and take all senior level courses, you absolutely can. I recommend you don't, and please talk to an advisor, but we will help you. We don't want to hold you back by saying, oh, well, we know that you were able to do Calc BC in high school, but you have to do Calc 1 here. We want to help you along the way and challenge you in your courses as well. That also gets me saying too, I'll talk a little bit more about at the end, but much like the other schools here, calculus is a requirement for us. Pre-calculus is a requirement for us. So students must complete pre-calculus before they can start enrolling in classes at WPI and to be considered for admission. We can hop on over to the next slide to really talk about how we do our projects here. So during your time, you're gonna have 4 hands-on projects, but the 2 ones down here are the ones I wanna focus on the most, your IQP and your MQP. This is where we have a lot of our STEM majors going out into the working world and actually making a difference and making an impact in communities that they're working with. I'll start with the MQP because I have a lot of great examples for that one. So right now I have 2 biomedical engineering students that I work with in our office that are currently going through their major qualifying project. One of those students is actually going through the process of inventing and patenting a non-invasive testing process for endometriosis. Currently, endometriosis is extremely hard to test for, mainly involving a surgery to actually go in and test the uterine wall to see if you actually have endometriosis. Our students are basically replacing it for a urine sample. So that way you can go to your doctor's office, take the urine sample and be like, yes, you need to go get further testing, or no, you're going to clear right now, which is definitely going to open up ease of healthcare access to women around the world too. And I don't know about any of y'all, I don't like going to the doctors. I hate going to the doctors because I don't know what procedure they're going to do. So anything our students can do to make the fear of going to the doctors better, they love taking advantage of too. And I have another biomedical engineering student right now who's actually working on fitting lasers to the tips of endoscopes to go in and fight thyroid cancer tumors. She's actually going through the process right now to work on it and patent that. This is the time at WPI where you as a STEM student can make a real product that you can do whatever you want with it. The student who's coming up with the testing process for endometriosis right now is fully working on that project and fully using that project as her own. It's her own idea that she's made up in her group, and they have ownership of that idea too, which is phenomenal. We have students in interactive media and game development making their own video games. We have aerospace engineers developing rockets that they can launch. We really love to focus on this hands-on learning opportunities for students to really make these products and make an impact on the world. And by speaking about it and making an impact on the world, if we transition over into the next slide, we can see our global projects that we offer, which goes back to the IQP that I was just about to start talking about too. So at WPI, we have 50 project centers located all over the globe that students can take advantage of. And this is where you're going and truly making a difference. If any of you have ever been to our information session before, you've probably seen the video of some of the projects our students done, such as sending students down to Cape Town, South Africa, working in a community that doesn't have functioning electricity, but using bottles that are full of water and bleach to put in the roofs of different houses to actually reflect sunlight and light up the shacks where the residents live. Or we have students going to Venice, Italy, where they develop systems to help the community monitor their canals. Even stateside, we send students up to Acadia National Park in Maine, where they can monitor the night sky and cover the environment of Acadia National Park too. These are all opportunities that we give our STEM students to go out anywhere they want to in the world at one of our project sites and really go and make a difference. And the cool thing is, when you're done at this project site at the end of the day, you're not packing up everything in a box and carrying it home to campus with you. You leave it there, and it actually makes a lasting impacts in the communities that you go in and the communities that you work in too. So it's really taking what you learned in the classroom and applying it in the field on the road. So you're going to run into issues when you're working there, which really helps our students become more adaptable and learn how to apply what they learn in the classroom a little bit better. And it all leads to great outcomes too. So we can transition over into the next slide. And we can see that over 400 companies come to our campus every single year during our 2 career fairs to help recruit WPI students. And the great thing is that many of them are already WPI alumni, so they know exactly what they're getting with their students. Competent, hardworking STEM students who know how to go hands-on and learn by doing and make an impact by hitting the ground running. Unlike Clarkson here, we actually do not fully require internships and co-ops during your time here at WPI, but it is absolutely encouraged and many of our students take advantage of it. The main reason why we don't require it is because we have a lot of projects built into our curriculum already and a lot of project centers that students take advantage of. But they are so vital to take advantage of that almost all of our students take advantage of some type of internship or co-op. And I absolutely recommend it, especially since for many of our students, it can be starting as early as your first year on campus. And my favorite number right over there is the average starting salary of just under $73,000 a year. So our students are graduating in pretty good shape and making above what the average market would be, even like we were talking about in the beginning of the slide there too. And this isn't just specific about WPI too. This number is in general, but many STEM students, as we were talking about, are higher earners compared to the average job market as well. And many of our students are targeted for the WPI plan, such as those 7-week courses. The companies are going to know you're going to have quick turnaround times on your projects and know how to actually make these projects work in a shorter amount of time. Now, when we're talking about what to do when to get into WPI, because I did have this question pop up and I did want to address it super quick because it actually flows perfectly into what I was going to say next. We are completely test blind at WPI. We stopped requiring any standardized testing whatsoever. And a big reason for that is really the standardized test just tests for power and privilege, and it has no indication whatsoever if you will be successful here at WPI. What really shows a good indication of success is what you do in the classroom for us. So we want to see you taking those challenging courses. Are you taking your AP IB honors classes and are you challenging yourself in your curriculum? And are you getting good grades in those? Are you getting A's and B's in those? So we don't look at your GPA as much per se. We're looking at that individual class performance and how well you do in that class performance. We also want to see great, well-rounded students. So we want to see what you're doing outside of the classroom. That matters to us a lot as well. So what activities are you getting involved in? How are you contributing to your community? What are you doing to better yourself, your community, and others around you? How do you work in a team? How do you learn by doing? How do you problem solve? How do you go hands-on? That's all stuff that we look for in the application. So our application review is very, very holistic in how we review our students and what we see from what we get with our students as well. I think that pretty much wraps it up for me for what I have about WPI. So I think we can actually head right over into the question and answer. And I think we have a good amount of time for it as well, which is great because I know we have a lot of questions coming in.
That is great. There is a lot of questions. So I'm going to spotlight all of you here. So the first question, and I think you've already answered this about WPI, was about standardized testing at each of the colleges. Is your admission currently test optional or test blind? If you're test blind and if the student doesn't want scores considered but supplies them, to use them in admissions, that kind of thing. So if maybe the other 2 presenters can speak to that, that would be great.
I can speak at RIT. We are test optional. We went test optional the year before COVID hit. And I have to be honest with you, it is a shift for sure. But we successfully have done it the past couple of years and are midway through our review cycle this year without tests. So some students are still submitting, about 55% so far this year are submitting their test scores, even though we are test optional.
Similar situation here at Clarkson. We are test optional. This is our second year of being truly test optional. Same, over 50% seem to still be submitting their scores, tend to be students with the higher scores. Will we look at them? Yes. Does it harm a student who doesn't send them? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Clarkson never really, I'll be honest, placed a lot of value on the SAT or ACT. It was always the last thing we'd ever look at. So it still is the last thing if a student sends it that we're looking at.
So we also have some questions about, about support for international students. Someone asked Clarkson specifically, since you're close to Canada, like if there is some connection there. And just there's some general, I'm looking for the other question about international students, but maybe if you could speak, each of you could take turns speaking to how you recruit, retain, and work with international students.
Do you want me to go since they mentioned me?
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Carrie,
let's start with you. Sorry.
So we're 20 miles from the Canadian border. Hey. So we definitely get a lot of Canadian students. I actually work with the Canadian students here at Clarkson. So yes, definitely a very close proximity. It's very easy for Canadians to get their F1 student visa. Very easy. They don't need to do an interview at the embassy. They don't need to worry about really any of the health forms that some countries require. They simply show up at the border, hand their paperwork, show their invoice has been paid, it gets stamped, they come on over to Clarkson. So it is a very smooth process for at least Canadian students. For other international students, sometimes it can be a rocky road, I'll be very honest. International students are only able to get merit-based aid with Clarkson, which that can range depending on how the student is doing. We are looking if they have the Cambridge exams, that's a great one. They will have to take some sort of, whether it be Duolingo, it can be an ISLET, they do have to take some exam to let us know they do have English proficiency. That is going to be a factor. And heads up, Canadian students, we can waive it for students from Quebec, but for some reason, Quebec is on the list of spots where students have to take an English proficiency. But don't worry, I can waive that no problem. As somebody who's Quebecois, I know English is taught in Quebec, so I know, don't worry. But yes, it can be, because I saw that on there, is it a rocky road? Sometimes it can be. Sometimes students just unfortunately do not get a visa to come study in the States, and they can try again the next year. We'll defer them. That's no problem. I think sometimes that can be the biggest hurdle, is getting that visa, to be honest.
And I did find the other question. I was trying to sort them as we were going. There was a question about kind of financial aid and sort of how that would work maybe differently for international students. So if you want to add that to your answer.
At RIT, we do offer the same level of merit scholarships for international students as we do the domestic students. So they are put through the exact same review. And to answer some of the previous questions about, do students have difficulty in getting visas? We're about 3 hours from the border to here to Canada. We get a lot of students from Ontario provinces and Quebec, Calgary, Alberta, and we tend to not have as many issues with visas with the Canadian schools and students. But if you look at our #1 countries, it is China and India that we get our international students from, and then #3 is Canada. So it was definitely difficult during the pandemic. We all have seen that with international students, long lines, additional fees to get interviews with the embassies. But we have really seen that turn around. And now RIT is requiring not only that students are vaccinated, but the additional booster now. So that's a requirement by the end of January that all faculty, staff, and students, employees have to be boosted. So that has been an additional issue for some international students, but we are providing those when the students come over. If they don't have them, we put them in our hotel, which is right here on campus, for a few days, they get their boosters, and then they nicely then get everything that they need to be able to begin classes.
And we do very similar stuff here at WPI as well. We're a little bit further than the Canadian border here in Worcester, but we get students all over the world. A lot of students from Central America, South America, China, India, really all over the world. And a great resource that we have for international students, it's actually the International House on campus. It really has two branches. The main one that I like to talk about is the Office of International Student Life, because they help work with a lot of our international students and go through the process with them of helping students related with immigration, cultural adjustment questions, paperwork questions, anything like that, to be a resource for all of our international students. Right now, we have about 9% of our student body made up of international students, so it is a pretty decent representation on campus, which is great. And much like RIT, we do require full vaccination, including the booster of all faculty, staff, and students. I believe yesterday is when everyone had to get it done. I got my booster shot. Probably the less affected. I got like less affected by that one than any of my shots before. So I was super excited. I got like the original strain of COVID way back when the pandemic first started. So the shots have always affected me, but our students have done really well with getting the shots that they need. We've been running booster and vaccination clinics on campus for every student, including international students, to help them get vaccinated and boosted. And we run testing twice a week on campus for students as well. So we've been able to create a pretty safe environment.
So I'm clustering a couple of these questions together because I think they go together. They're about engineering, and it sounds like maybe people think they want to be an engineer, and maybe once they go to the college, they figure out what kind of engineer they want to be. So I'm going to read these two questions just in case that gives a little bit of context. Are students able to begin as a general engineering major and then choose their major concentration later on? And do any of these schools have a single door admission policy for engineering? I think those two kind of go together. Let's start with Patrick, and we'll go in reverse order just to make it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, I think like undecided is one of the more popular majors. About 20% of our students apply completely undecided, and that's totally okay. It's very easy to change your major depending on what you want to do, and you can come in for undeclared engineering as well. We also have no impacted or capped majors on campus. So technically, if every single student wanted to come in and do mechanical engineering, and we had a full class of mechanical engineering students, that technically can happen for us. So there's no caps or limits on any of those programs whatsoever.
Carrie, are you next? She said reverse order. I just didn't want to jump in on top of you.
Oh, go for it.
Okay, so at RIT, as we look at how we are serving the students, they can come in a couple of different ways. But because the students really don't know which engineering to concentrate in, we have an engineering exploration program. So they can do engineering exploration. They do 1 full year. They work with an academic advisor, specifically because these students are not exactly sure which engineering they want. Faculty from the different engineering curriculums come in once a week and meet with these students, so they get exposure from mechanical, from biomedical, from computer, et cetera, et cetera. And then by the end of their first year, they can then declare which engineering they want, and then they are guaranteed admission into whichever engineering program that they want. We do the same thing with engineering technology. So very unique to RIT, we have a College of Engineering. We also have a College of Engineering Technology. And while it's easy to say that these are students that are more hands-on, it is less theoretical. So, but it's more of the practical side of engineering. But these students still do the co-ops that are required. So if you have a student who's interested in less theory, but more of the practical side of the engineering discipline, they may want to look at engineering technology. We have most of the sister programs for engineering. And then they also have an engineering technology exploration option. So I think I want to do mechanical, you can do mechanical engineering technology. You can do civil engineering technology, so on and so forth. And the same thing happens there with those exploration students, with the advisors taking that year, and then also working with faculty in the different areas. So you have a pretty good orientation by the time you graduate, or by the time you're doing with that first year of knowing which engineering you want.
And we do something very similar because honestly, you don't know. And that's okay. What is a mechanical engineer? You think you have an idea and then come to find out, whoops, that's not what I thought a mechanical engineer does. This isn't what I wanted my path to be. So at Clarkson, you're applying to us overall as a university, not into a specific school, not into a specific program. If you are thinking, I think it's engineering, but I'm not sure, engineering studies. You get your first 2 years, get the foundation courses out of the way, but then you get to take a bunch of courses in all the engineering majors to really figure out which one is meant to be yours. Who are you as an engineer? Or maybe you find out, I'm not meant to be an engineer, and that's okay too. We'll just switch you on over to another major. Similar to what Patrick said, hey, if 800 mechanical engineers show up tomorrow at Clarkson, Brian Hellenbrook's going to be so thrilled with me. He's the head of the mechanical engineering program, but it's okay. We are not going to cap it. We're not going to say no. So if it is everybody's mechanical, if everybody is electrical, we're going to make it work. So you have no worries about missing a spot or us all of a sudden putting a cap on anything in the engineering world with us.
Okay, and we have like 3 groups of questions I really want to ask. Let's see if we can get through them, but I'm going to start with having some questions about sort of neurodiverse applicants, ADHD, learning disability modifications, or how successful are students who have learning disabilities or ADHD needs for your programs? How might creative STEM programs enable neurodiverse applicants more opportunity and access? So yeah, let's Carrie first. We'll go back again, reverse.
Sure. Here we go again, backward and forward. So at Clarkson, we have an office that is called the Office of Accessibility. So here, a lot of students prefer to chat with them before they make their decision of where they're going to go to university. 100% you should do that. Make sure all of the colleges you are looking at have a path that will make you successful. Whether it be something as simple as you need a note taker. Okay. We can make that happen for every class. Do you need extra time? Do you need to be more visual? Do you need to be able to draw? Do you need to be able to have a computer in front of you at all times? Okay, we can make that happen. So it is ask. Be your own advocate. Parents be an advocate as well. And counselors be an advocate for your students and make sure that each university does have exactly what that student will need. Or maybe there's things that we have on our level that you don't have at the high school level that can help the student succeed. So yes, we have seen success with students across the board. I think that's the great thing about STEM is that it is creative, but just in a different way, and students can make it their own thing. STEM's, it's awesome. It really is. And you really can, you make it your own thing. I love it. I love talking about engineering. I do it all day because it's so cool. And you make it your own thing. Not every mechanical engineering student's the same. They don't do the same projects. They don't take the same classes. They don't do the same internship or co-op. So this is a great way to make it your own and be successful in your way on your path.
I'm going to jump in here for RIT. So RIT has a Spectrum Support Services office. It's a team of individuals who do an assessment once a student has paid their deposit and they raise their hand that they fall into, they're on the spectrum and they want services. So we don't ask that as an identifier in admissions, and nor should we be doing that. But it gives RIT's professionals on board to do a closer assessment and be able to know exactly what those individual students need. So RIT is very well known for their services in this area. They can get one-on-one support. They can get group support. They will work with math skills specialists and writing specialists, depending on what they need in order to be successful. And so RIT has kind of become known as a university that really serves this population of students very well. And again, many of these students have the skill sets already. They've been successful. There might have been some rocky roads through their secondary school, trying to figure out what they need. Many students are still trying to figure out the trials and tribulations, if they were medicated, on the right dosage, the right amount, when to take it, how it affected other parts of their diet, their wellness. So we really have a group here of people that can help them with that, who are specialists and psychologists in these areas. So again, we've got that on board. And really the word's been out on our ability to help with those services. Also real quick, these specialists will, while we do request that students advocate to as much as they can with faculty, what's nice is that these folks, when necessary, will become involved in helping set up some of the technology that they need for some of the support services with the faculty.
And here at WPI, we have various similar systems in place. We have our Office of Accessibility Services on campus. So right now we have about just under 5,000 undergraduate students on campus. And of that population, over 700 students actually take advantage of what the Office of Accessibility Service has to offer. So for quick math, that's just under 1 in 5 students take advantage of what we have to offer through the Office of Accessibility Services. So there's a large population on campus, and there's a very successful population too. We haven't really seen any students not being successful due to any of this. And I can't echo enough. Try to be an advocate for yourself, be an advocate for your student, be an advocate for your child, be an advocate for your student, and talk to these offices before, like Carrie was saying, talk to these offices before you end up submitting your enrollment deposit as well, to know what resources we can have for you, to know exactly how we're going to be here to help you. And something that we do too is we keep an eye out for it on every application that we see. If we see a student who signifies that they do have something on their application, we put it down in a report. So if a student is accepted to the university, we will send out automatic emails being like, hey, here we go, we're getting some resources available for you. So we try to be proactive on our end too, to help students who may note that in their application. But again, it is not something that we require that any students note at all.
I'm acknowledging we're not going to get through all the questions today. So what I'm just pointing out that I put the contact information for the presenters in the chat. Please reach out to them. They're lovely people and will answer your questions. There is a group of questions, and this will be our last group of questions about merit aid and general sort of funding stuff. For WPI, does the change in the schedule, the way that you do classes, impact the overall tuition cost? If offered, how are merit scholarships determined? Can you address support for FGLI students? And if you do meet full need, and approximately what percentage of students are Pell eligible? Do each college offer merit scholarships? So these are like the general questions people are asking about merit aid and things like that. So just giving you all that stuff you can riff on what you want. Carrie, let's start with you.
Totally lost my cursor for a second there. I'm like, where is my cursor? So Clarkson, merit aid is completely separate from need-based aid. When you apply for merit aid, great. You simply apply to Clarkson. There's a couple specialty scholarships. Some of them have to do with location because a trustee member made an endowed scholarship. We have one for 5 borough students from the 5 boroughs in New York City. We have a couple other ones for local students up here in Northern New York. So those are ones that would need a separate app, but other than that, no. Merit aid, just based off the application. GPA, course rigor, letters of recommendation, how active you are in extracurriculars, that's really going to play that big role. For need-based aid, that's when the FAFSA for us comes into play. We will need you to file that hopefully before February 1st. And that's what we're going to use to decide, okay, that's what's going to tell us if you're Pell eligible. It will tell us if you get SEO. It will tell us if you get the federal direct loans. It will also tell us if you qualify for any Clarkson grants, because we also have need-based aid that we can give you as well. So they do typically fall within two, it's like right and left hand. They're opposite, they're together, but opposite at the same time. We do have quite a few students who they decide, you know what, I know I'm not going to qualify for anything need-based, and they say, hey, I'm not filing the FAFSA. Okay, you don't have to. And by no means do you need to file the FAFSA at all. That comes into play with students who are non-citizens as well. Don't worry, just don't file it. You qualify for merit aid. no problem. Do we meet full need? We come close. I will be very honest, we don't, unless it's a Division I hockey player or it's a student that ends up being our presidential award, which we have 10 of those per class year. Other than that, Clarkson will try its hardest to make Clarkson affordable for every student that comes here.
So at RIT, we don't meet full need either. We believe that students should have some responsibility throughout that process. And then, of course, the co-op certainly does help as they're getting paid. And many students are able to, as they get into those years 3, 4, and if they're in engineering or computing a 5-year, they're able to help pay for some of their tuition costs. However, our merit scholarships range anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. It is separate. And then we are strictly basing that off of the student's ability, academic ability when they're coming through the door. But then the majority of our students are getting funding through our financial aid and scholarships office with need-based aid. And just a simple form of the FAFSA is what we require. As I mentioned earlier, our international students qualify for the exact same amounts of financial assistance throughout the process. So again, lots of Pell recipients are coming to RIT, and this is a growing number, which is reflective in the students that are coming from lower socioeconomic families within the US. And so as that number has been growing, so has our admit rates with a lot of those families. And we're doing whatever we can to support them with as much financial aid and assistance as possible. It's educating those families that it could actually happen if they would just complete the forms and not be scared by that tuition at our 3 private campuses. That's the problem, is having families actually know that there is financial assistance available.
Alrighty, and just to jump in here for WPI, pretty much same around the board, we can never guarantee that we're going to be able to meet full need for every single student that we see apply. Merit-based scholarships are automatically considered based off your application. And again, it's not just your grade. So it's not like we see something GPA, stamp yes, stamp no, put a number, put a price tag next to it. It's everything in the application, what you're involved in, how involved you are, what differences you make, how do you impact your community, everything like that goes into the application and the merit review. We also realized that there is a diversity issue in STEM and there is a representation issue in STEM too. So we were very fortunate enough this year to institute 2 brand new scholarships. First of all, we have the Leslie Small Scholarship named after our first woman graduate from WPI, which offers an additional scholarship to women applicants who are accepted, and our Olson Scholarship, which is going to be for African-American students, also named after our first African-American graduate. So those are 2 scholarships that we're very happy to be introducing, plus additional scholarships that we offer, some that I can nail off my head, like Girls Who Code, for example, is another scholarship that we offer based off of a student's application, and then other ones based off of what donors want to donate. We have a ton of specific scholarships available for students just based off your application that everybody is automatically considered for, depending on whether you're a resident of the US or not, totally dependent, not dependent on that. Then we dip into need-based financial aid. That we require the FAFSA and the CSS profile because we do offer our own institutional need-based aid. So we do want to see that CSS profile. I forget the number off the top of my head, but if a family makes under a certain amount of money, we do not require the CSS profile. So if you want to know what that number is, definitely get in touch with me and I can get you that as well. But that's really what we're doing here at WPI when it comes to need-based aid.
Awesome. And we're going to have Ginny close us out here. Thank you, all the presenters.
Yes, thank you all very much. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Patrick and Marian and Carrie. This has been a wonderful presentation. You guys really hit a home run with that. And thank you all for attending. Look for emails that will be coming out sometime next week with a tape recording of this presentation. Also on the 3rd Thursday in February, we'll have a presentation on art schools. And in March, we'll be talking about students with learning disabilities. Thank you all. Be safe, stay well, have a great day.